My husband brought his mistress home just 3 days after I was diagnosed. Sounds like a speedrun betrayal, doesn't it? People usually have time to order fake funeral flowers, but he somehow managed to carry her through the door like it was the pilot episode of a brand new love sitcom. But trust me, the ending wasn't cotton candy sweet. It was bitter enough to taste like medicine. Curious how I welcomed them? Sit down, and let me spill the whole story from the very beginning. That afternoon, I slumped on the ash-gray sofa in the living room, my hands still trembling from the stack of hospital papers. For the past 5 months, I'd been living like a clock running out of batteries, listening to my heart every day as if it might hand in its resignation at any moment. I had already written my goodbye letters, picked out music for my funeral. Don't ask, my taste is a little weird. Even rehearsed whispering, "Thank you for coming," to the friends who'd ugly cry on my behalf. Then the doctor scratched his head and said, "Lab mix-up." I was fine. No heart disease, no countdown. I'd spent 5 months preparing to die, while my body was busy, living just fine. Before I could fully digest the good news, the screech of a rusty U-Haul's brakes echoed from the driveway. I pulled the curtain back. Damon, my husband of 11 years, was hauling a blonde out of the truck like he was the leading man in the opening scene of some cozy primetime sitcom. Bodycon dress, red heels, a smile that screamed, "Hi, I'm the new character this season." That was Chloe. And to top off the sweet package, behind her waddled a tiny bulldog wearing a pink collar with a jingling bell, like it was introducing itself. "Hello, I'm Biscuit, today's cute cameo." You know what the bitter little punchline here is? For 5 months, while I thought I was dying, Damon kept saying, "Don't get at a dog, you're too exhausted." But today, he cradled Biscuit like he'd just won the Lombardi trophy. Watching that scene made me feel equal parts nauseous and weirdly amused. Real life sometimes has this dark comedy flair. Then my phone buzzed on the table, a text from my high school friend. "Wait, are you okay? I just saw your obituary on Facebook." I froze. Obituary. I pulled up Damon's profile, and there it was, a syrupy post in plain sight. "Farewell to my beloved wife Natalie. She left this world a week ago." Right below, a photo of me laughing over last year's birthday cake, like some twisted way of memorializing me. If you ever thought your spouse might be a little insensitive, at least they didn't pronounce you dead on social media before actually talking to you. Right? I wanted to scream, but all I could do was laugh. That silent kind of laugh, like when you're watching a clip on Reddit's "Are We the Baddies?" and suddenly realize, oh, turns out I'm the main character. I remembered scrolling Reddit just weeks ago and seeing a post about a husband faking his wife's obituary so he could move his mistress in. I literally commented, "Sounds way too far-fetched." Well, guess what? Far-fetched just pulled up to my house in a U-Haul with out-of-state plates. Damon wrapped his arm around Chloe's waist and whispered something small, exactly the kind of line that would cue a laugh track. Chloe giggled out loud, tilting her head back like she just booked her dream penthouse suite. But this wasn't a penthouse. This was the house I pieced together board by board, painted wall by wall, even replaced door hinges with my shaky hands, believing it would be my final legacy. Now it looked like that legacy had been recast as the set for a brand new pilot, Honeymoon, Episode 1. I didn't jump up. Maybe my years in marketing had burned out my impulsive nerve. I was too used to strategizing, weighing risks, plotting exits. So instead of yelling, observed. I wanted to be sure of one thing. Did Damon really believe I was dead, or did he just need the world to believe it? At this point, if you were watching with me, tell me, what would you do? Reveal yourself right away, or wait for one more ridiculous piece of evidence to make the story extra juicy? Biscuit decided for me. He bolted through the door, little paws clattering on my freshly refinished hardwood floors, sniffing around like he was on a treasure hunt. Then he turned into the living room, locking eyes with me, froze, eyes wide like 2 peppercorns. One more sniff. Then, grrr, loud enough to sound like a fire alarm. His tiny pink collar bell jingled furiously as he barked so hard. Chloe's purse hit the floor with a thud, spilling lipstick, hair clips, and a travel-size body spray across the rug. "Biscuit," Chloe called, her voice wavering. Damon stepped inside, and with just 2 strides he saw me, sitting upright on the sofa, holding the crisp hospital papers like they were a trophy for "Back from the Fake News Grave." His face went from flushed pink to ghost white, like someone had just flipped on a fluorescent spotlight mid-performance. Chloe clung to his arm, her red heels frozen in place, eyes so wide I half expected her real lashes to fall onto the rug. I smiled, not the sweet kind, just a sharp little smirk, edged with bitterness, like a blade nicking through a sugar shell. You ever stare at a painting and suddenly realize, oh, that painting is you? That's where I was, replaying every brushstroke of the past 5 months. Every wall I painted, every trip to the hardware store, every night counting heartbeats, and realizing I'd been building the backdrop for a scene I never signed up to play a supporting role in. Chloe gasped, "What is this?" Her question floated in the sunlit room. Damon stayed silent. He just stared at me, as if hoping I'd evaporate all over again, so his Facebook status could keep its consistency. "Biscuit," I tilted my head at the little bulldog, keeping my voice soft like I was talking to a toddler just learning to stand. "Good girl." She stopped barking, perked an ear, then wagged her tiny tail. A funny little beat in the middle of a ridiculous scene, like an indie film moment where the only soundtrack is the faint jingle of a pink collar bell. And you, if you stumbled across an obituary for yourself written by the person who shares your bed, what would you do first? Report the post? Or report the poster? Me, I chose to sit still a few more seconds. Give them time to realize. The opening act was officially over. Biscuit was still growling at my feet. Damon's panicked stare practically burned into the air, but my mind had already started rewinding like a Netflix documentary, back to where my whole 5-month legacy journey began. This old farmhouse used to be my mom's, run down, with peeling walls and a leaky roof that gave up every time it rained. When I got the news that my heart was about to quit, I thought, fine, I'll go, but at least I'll leave something worth remembering. So I threw myself into renovations. I'd only ever known office life, building campaign decks, pitching PowerPoints. But suddenly I was a pro with drills, mixing cement, even learning how to fire a nail gun from YouTube. They say your job reflects your personality, and I think that's true. I work in marketing, which basically means I'm always asking, how do you make the ordinary unforgettable? So I looked at a pile of old lumber in the shed and thought, yep, that's going to be a long dining table for the whole family. I stared at the cracked walls and imagined, this will be the perfect backdrop for someone's engagement photos. Turns out, I was just marketing my own final legacy. Damon, of course, played the role of the devoted husband. He'd rub my back and say, you just rest, let me handle the heavy stuff. But funny thing, every weekend he suddenly had a banking conference in Dallas, Houston, or some other yawn-worthy state. Every time I picked up a hammer to hit a wall, he picked up a suitcase. I'd sit on the ladder, sweat dripping into the paint can, thinking, wow, he must be networking like crazy. Looking back now, all I want to do is troll myself. I was hauling bricks while he was hauling a bartender home. And you know what? It wasn't just lies. He pulled stunts behind my back too. One afternoon, I noticed my mom's antique pendulum clock, the one that ticked through every family dinner of my childhood, had disappeared from the living room. Damon said, I took it for maintenance. And I believed him. Until I saw it pop up in one of Chloe's Instagram posts, where she bragged about her special vintage gift from someone special. Look closely, and you could still see the scratch where I'd slapped a sticker on it back in high school. I wanted to comment, that someone special literally stole it from my mom's house, sis. But I stayed quiet. Back then, I thought I was dying. And honestly, who has the energy to start an Instagram war under those circumstances? Then came my mom's wooden rocking chair. The one that used to creak in rhythm as she rocked me to sleep. The one with that faint darkened spot where her hand always rested. One day, it vanished too. Damon's excuse, I sent it out for repairs. 3 weeks later, Chloe posted a story. Chilling tonight on my vintage rocking chair, spinning vinyl. I watched that clip, teeth clenched, but at the time I was too drained, convinced I only had a few months left. I told myself, let it go. I'll be gone soon, what does it matter who keeps it? But now, alive and well, the anger in me burned hotter than when a drill bit slipped in my hand. I had spent 5 months believing I was doing something noble, leaving behind a legacy house. In reality, Damon had turned me into free labor for his bargain bin love story. My phone buzzed. Eric, my brother's name, lit up the screen. I answered, forcing my voice to stay steady. Natalie, Eric said, his breath ragged, are you sitting down? You need to hear this. Bad enough that I have to sit? I shot back, the sarcasm covering the knot in my chest. I just heard from a friend who works at a hotel in Miami. Someone booked the honeymoon suite under the name Damon Rivers, with Chloe Summers. I looked up at Damon and Chloe, still frozen in the doorway like two actors who'd forgotten their lines. In my head, the hyphen between legacy and honeymoon shattered like glass hitting my freshly polished hardwood. The name Chloe echoed in my skull, straight from Eric's phone call, while the three of us stood paralyzed in the kitchen. The air was thick, heavy. Only the dishwasher hummed in the background, as if desperately trying to provide a soundtrack for a painfully absurd sitcom. Chloe clutched Damon's arm tighter, her red heels clacking against the wood floor, looking like she might melt into a puddle any second. "Wait," she swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "You told me your wife passed away last week." Each word landed with a thud against the floor. I crossed my arms and leaned against the kitchen counter, staring straight at the young woman trembling like a puppy caught in the rain. "Sorry to bother you, but it seems I never actually received a death certificate. Maybe the post office lost it?" Chloe jolted, her face draining of color. Damon immediately threw his hands up like some referee on a daytime talk show. "Wait, both of you, don't blow this out of proportion. This is a complicated situation. I'm just a man stuck between two sides." I burst out laughing. "Stuck between two sides? Damon, you're not a piece of meat in a sandwich. You jumped into the hot pot yourself, and now you're shocked someone added seasoning." Chloe shrieked. "You lied to me? Damon, you told me she was dead. You even showed me the obituary." I thought it would all be over soon," Damon stammered, eyes darting around for mercy. But when they landed on me, all he found was the curve of my smirk. I stepped closer, my voice sweet as sugar poured into a cup of coffee, the kind I'd never brew for him again. "Then spell it out. When did you start with Chloe? Before or after the doctor told me I had 5 months left?" Damon's jaw twitched and he swallowed hard. "After. Of course, after." Chloe cut in before he could finish, blurting out, 3 days after, Damon. Don't you remember? 3 days after you cried to me about Natalie only having a few months left, you came into the bar where I worked and..." I laughed so loud Biscuit startled and barked once in solidarity. "Oh, thank you, Chloe. That's the official timeline right there. 3 days. You didn't even let me finish my bottle of vitamins." "Shut up," Damon snapped at her, eyes flashing. But Chloe was finally catching on. She buried her face in her hands, mascara smearing, her voice breaking. "Oh my God. You told me you were honest, that you just needed someone to help you get through. I believed you." I tilted my head, my tone sharp with mock sympathy. "Well, he's not wrong. He did need someone. Someone to sign restaurant checks, someone to keep the hotel bed warm in Florida, someone to rehearse his little young widower act." Chloe's head snapped up, her eyes wide, and in that instant the twist dropped like a hammer. "And the ring," she gasped, turning toward me. "He bought me an engagement ring, right after getting the insurance payout, because he thought you were dead." The room went stone silent. Damon froze, as if Chloe had just spit out the one secret he thought he'd buried deepest. I could even hear my own heartbeat, strong and steady, thank God for that supposedly failing heart of mine. I slowly lowered myself onto a kitchen chair, resting my chin on my hand, a mocking smile curling across my face. "Oh, Damon, the least you could have done was wait for me to be dead on paper before slipping a ring onto someone else's finger." Damon stammered. "No, you've got it wrong. It's not what you think." I cut him off, calm but sharp as a paring knife. "Oh, I understand perfectly. It's just that right now I'm healthier than anyone else in this room." And as if to punctuate the scene, Biscuit barked again, circling us with that pink bell jingling, hammering home every single word I'd just said. The air in the kitchen was so heavy I swear a single match could have blown it sky high. But instead of screaming, I chose another route. If Damon wanted a performance, I'd shine the spotlight right on his real face. And my spotlight was a phone. "I didn't spend the last 5 months lying down just to die stupid," I said, pulling my iPhone from my pocket. "While you and Chloe were busy rehearsing a bargain bin Romeo and Juliet, I had my own plan." Damon winced. "Natalie, stop this. We can talk." "Oh, we are talking," I cut him off, scrolling through my contacts. "Starting with Mrs. Landry." I hit speaker. On the other end, the voice of the infamously icy bank executive sliced through the silence. "Natalie, I got your message. Are you absolutely certain about what you're saying?" "I'm 100% sure," I said, eyes locked on Damon. My husband funneled company funds into what he called a new investment account, but really it went straight into the personal account of his little friend. "Chloe here." Chloe jerked back, eyes wide. "What?" Mrs. Landry's voice cut in cold as ice. We've reviewed the records. Several of those so-called projects don't exist. Damon, you've been using company money like it's your personal wallet. The board meets Monday. Be ready. I hung up, smiling. That's strike one. Damon's face drained of all color. Before I could even put my phone away, I tapped another number, Monica, my former colleague and best friend, now a lawyer. Nat, I checked the files like you asked, Monica said, her voice a mix of outrage and excitement, like she was about to binge-watch a juicy series. Damon filed a fake divorce petition. Your signature looks like it was forged by a third grader. The goal? To cash out your joint retirement fund. I guess he was calling it preparing for the future with Chloe? I let out a dry laugh and turned to Damon. So thoughtful of you. Planning out your Mistress retirement, too. Shame the forged signature looked more like a doctor scribbling an antibiotic prescription. No one's buying it. Monica added, I've already filed the paperwork with the court. They'll process it quickly. Don't worry. Thanks, Monica. I hung up. That's strike two. Damon braced himself against the kitchen counter, sweat breaking across his forehead. Chloe backed away, caught somewhere between fear and fury. You even faked a divorce? God, Damon. I glanced down at my screen and dialed Eric, my brother, who just so happened to have old connections at the IRS. Eric, got anything hot for me? His voice came through, brimming with amusement. Hot? Oh? Yeah. We found out Damon listed Chloe as a dependent on his tax return. Like she was an adopted kid or someone he was financially supporting. Who in their right mind claims their girlfriend as a dependent to dodge taxes? That's basically a written confession. I nodded slowly, eyeing Damon. Brilliant move. You filled out your taxes like a high schooler applying for a scholarship. Eric added, the IRS is on it. Don't worry. Strike three, I announced, my tone like a game show host tallying points. Damon stammered. You're destroying my whole life. I gave a cold smile. You already did that yourself. I'm just turning on the lights so the audience can see it clearly. Just as I was about to put my phone away, a payment notification popped up. I opened it and nearly laughed out loud. Oh, Damon, you really don't miss a trick, do you? You signed up for pet insurance for Biscuit with my credit card? Chloe whipped around to face him. You used your wife's money to insure my dog? Damon. I put a hand on my hip and laughed. You really are the king of multitasking. Faking my death on Facebook, claiming your mistress on your taxes, and making me pay for her dog's checkups. I've got to hand it to you. The kitchen buzzed with three overlapping sounds. Damon's ragged breathing, Chloe's choked sobs, and my own laughter cutting through it all. And if any of you listening right now have made it this far, let me ask, how would you react if your name was being used like a public ATM? Drop it in the comments. I could use a little extra drama reading for entertainment. No sooner had I finished that thought than a knock rattled the door. Knock. 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 The kitchen went dead silent. Damon shot me a panicked glare. What did you do? I raised a brow. Oh, looks like it's time for our special guest appearance. I walked over and opened the door. Standing there was Detective O'Connor in a gray suit, eyes sharp as blades, in his hand a thick folder and a paper stamped with a glaring red seal. Mrs. Rivers? Yes, that's me. He nodded, holding out the paper. We have a warrant to investigate financial fraud connected to Mr. Damon Rivers. May we come in? I stepped aside, gesturing like a stage hostess inviting him on set. Please, right this way. Perfect timing. The audience has been waiting. Damon grabbed Chloe's arm, his voice shrill like a drowning man's last gasp. This is all your fault. You dragged me into this mess. If you hadn't bragged, if you hadn't demanded so much, then... My fault? Chloe screamed, her mascara streaking down like a clown caught in the rain. You told me we'd have a house, a family, a new life. You painted a fake paradise so I'd believe you. I quit my job, I left my friends, I gave up everything to follow you. And now, turns out you're just a con man in a white shirt. Damon's sweat dripped as his eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. Detective O'Connor stood with his arms crossed, calm as someone who's seen too many family dramas end up as criminal case files. His voice was quiet but firm. Mr. Rivers, we need you to leave this house right now. This house is mine, Damon roared. The moment the words mine left his mouth, Biscuit suddenly sneezed, then bolted straight toward me, tail wagging like crazy as if he'd just picked his new owner. I couldn't help but laugh. See? Even the dog knows which side to choose. Karma on 4 legs, adorable addition. The whole room froze for a beat. Damon's face flushed crimson, while Chloe buried her face in her hands. Sobbing so hard, her cries blended with the jingle of Biscuit's pink collar. I cleared my throat, locked eyes with Damon, and calmly announced, "Oh, and one small detail nobody knows yet. This house, the one my mother left me, I quietly transferred the deed to the Pet Rescue Foundation 2 months ago. Which means, Damon, even if I had departed the way your obituary claimed, you still never would have had a shot at owning it." The kitchen sank into silence, as if the universe had hit pause. Damon staggered, his mouth hanging open. Chloe lifted her swollen eyes, still wide with shock. "I'll sue you," Damon screamed, his voice cracking, finger jabbing at me like a kid who'd just had his toy taken away. Detective O'Connor didn't even blink. He pulled the cuffs from his belt and replied coolly, "Mr. Rivers, trust me, you're gonna need a lawyer, but not to sue anyone." The sharp click of steel echoed as the cuffs locked around Damon's wrists. He thrashed, cursed, blamed, begged, all of it melting into one meaningless mess. Chloe shrank back, trembling lips pressed tight, while Biscuit hopped onto the sofa beside me, curling up like he'd found the safest spot in the house. I stroked his tiny head, the feeling bitter yet deeply satisfying. Watching Damon being led out the door, I tossed one last line after him. "Next time, wait until I'm actually dead before you make plans." And the door closed, the clink of handcuffs fading into the distance. I sat out on the porch, legs swinging over the freshly polished wooden steps, face tilted toward the darkening sky. This rocking chair, I'd built it for Damon to read his morning paper. Now it was just my spot to sit and chuckle to myself. Who would have thought the house I once imagined as my final gift to my husband would instead turn into the perfect trap, locking him neatly into a pair of shiny cuffs? Honestly, if Hollywood heard this, they'd be fighting for the film rights. Inside, I heard the shuffle of boxes. Chloe was packing. No red lipstick, no bodycon dress, just a young woman hugging a cardboard box, eyes swollen. She stepped onto the porch, hesitating in front of me. I'm sorry," she sighed. I believed words that were too sweet. I thought he was honest. I glanced over, smirk tugging at my lips. "Girl, that sweetness was artificial sugar. Better you spit it out, saves you a cavity." Chloe let out a small laugh, wet, messy, but genuine. Then she bowed her head, scooped up Biscuit, and left. I watched her go, feeling neither pity nor triumph. Just the simple recognition of someone finally stepping out of a scam. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica lit up the screen. "Hot update. The DA just added charges for falsifying divorce papers. Damon's sentence is going to be heavier than expected. Grab popcorn." I snorted, tapped back a clapping hands emoji, then set the phone down on the table. A soft breeze swept across the porch, carrying the scent of fresh-cut wood and the lavender my mom had planted years ago. I whispered to myself, sometimes you build a house with blood, sweat, and tears. But in the end, the house builds you back. I turned to the imaginary camera in front of me, as if the audience were sitting right there. If one day you found out someone faked your death behind your back, what would you do? Drop it in the comments. I really want to hear. Then I leaned back, letting the creak of the rocking chair blend with the easy laughter spilling out of me.